Good evening, everyone. James Hicks here from Hicks New Media. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Perspectives and Focus. Tonight we have a wonderful show for you. I'm glad you are able to attend. Very meaningful message, and hopefully there'll be some engagement with my guest today because it's a timely, relevant topic of the day that needs to be discussed. My guest today, Montell Allen. Montell Allen is the founder of MBA Sports, not-for-profit independent institution that's dedicated to providing quality service for minority and underprivileged student athletes in their efforts to pursue college aspirations. Their goal, bridge the gap between minorities, underprivileged student athletes, and college education using sports as a hybrid platform. This is accomplished by helping young men and women get through the process and achieving a higher level of education. Tonight we're going to talk about all the efforts that MBA Sports has achieved. We're going to chat a little bit about the process of recruiting for sports, especially here in California, and how over the past 25 years with cutbacks, it has been directly affecting men of color within their communities. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Montell Allen. Montell, how you doing, sir?
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Absolutely. So I'll start off talking a little bit about my organization, MBA Sports. It was a nonprofit I started several years ago, and like you said, it definitely helped bridge the gap, especially for those underprivileged and those having the opportunity to go to college, and using that platform of sports, particularly football, for men of color to be able to get into schools, educate themselves, and be able to get back to the community.
Awesome. So let's rewind just a little bit, because I mean that's the big picture. That's what we want to spend some time talking about. And I think that's a fantastic task, right, that you've taken on, because that needs to happen, and that needs to happen specifically for folks within our community. And it's good to see someone that looks like us out there representing and really trying to move that needle in a forward direction. But outside of the corporate world, tell the folks who Montell Allen is.
Me, man, I'm just
I'm gonna put you on the spot.
I'm a guy that I was raised in Sacramento, California. A good friend of yours, and one of my great friends, Kevin Bracey, is the one that linked us up. We've been partners in crime for I don't know how long. And man, I'm a real passionate guy. I'm a family man. I'm really passionate about kids and their opportunities because I know how hard it is. I know I was the lucky one to get out of my crew. I mean,
Okay.
I was just thinking about the other day, man. By the time I was 14, I witnessed my brother being killed to gang violence. I witnessed drug addiction. I witnessed alcoholism. I was raised by a single mother. I witnessed our house getting shot up when we were young. I witnessed all these things going on. Living in Meadowview Apartments by Burbank, living over there. My mom was lucky when I was 14. We moved to Citrus Heights, which was a blessing. Due to her situation, we got better, but we were raised in Freeport. I lived in the Gardens. There was a lot of stuff going on, and I'm thinking back, man, by the time I was 14, I witnessed all these things. I mean, that's post-traumatic syndrome for most people.
Yes, sir. It is, yeah.
Witness all that going through, and I was able to, internalize that, use it as a motivational skill, go to college and be successful and graduate from college. Got my master's. I've been working in corporate America for several years, and I had the opportunity to play football. Football was my outlet and my main outlet to be kind of do that. And I want to be able to get that opportunity back to some young men, because I know they're going through either a similar situation as I went through or even worse.
Yeah. So let me ask you that, because that's very interesting. Just I know those areas. I know those neighborhoods. I've lived in those neighborhoods, some of those neighborhoods as well. Mm-hmm. They're challenging, right? Again, you're surrounded by a lot of pulls in one particular direction. It's easy to fall into whatever trap, peer pressure, whatever you want to call it. How did you personally pull yourself out of those particular situations and say, you know what, I myself have to do something better, or I know that there's something better for me? And how did you turn that into a desire to help others as well once you got of age, of education, of means, and things of that?
I think the starting point for me was definitely when my brother passed away. I mean, it happened when, like I said, when I was 14 years old, my first year in high school. He was at he was a guy known in the neighborhood, pretty tough guy doing his thing. We had just moved to Citrus Heights. He always wanted to keep going back to the old neighborhood in Freeport. And, situation happened. He was at a party, got in an argument. and things went the wrong way, and he was killed. I think at that point, and seeing my mother cry was like, that was a gut wrenching moment for me, where I'm like, you know what, it's not gonna happen no more to my family. And the way that I figured it out was through transition or pushing my anger, my desire, all into sports. And that didn't even come easy. I mean, like I said, I went to Mesa Verde. It wasn't known as a high school powerhouse or anything. From that point on, I played basketball and football, ran track, dominant. I was really good at football and basketball. And it wasn't my football coaches that saw anything in me. It was my basketball coach. He asked me one day, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to go play college football. And he was like, well, where you want to go? And then within the next couple of weeks, I started getting letters and interest. And Humboldt State at the time was very interested in me. Guys wanted to go Division I. I really wasn't about the Division I thing. I really didn't even understand it at that time. Wasn't really the big thing. I just wanted to go to college and get away and play. That was my desire. Humboldt State was really persistent in recruiting me. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go. I'm going to take a leap of faith and go play and have fun. And in that transition, I saw so many guys that were like me. That was their thing. They got to college. They got there. They were able to figure out the path from there. And it was a pivotal moment in that. And when I was in college, because there was a point that I wanted to quit. I wasn't playing. They were talking about redshirt. I didn't understand any of the process because I wasn't familiar with it. There was nobody in my family could even talk to. I didn't have a father figure anybody I could even turn to because I've never been to college. So no one knew it. And I was sitting in my locker, and there was an older gentleman next to me, and he was just like, man, I know you're not going to let, your development in football take away the opportunity you get your degree. And that really resonated with me.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Like, whoa. He was like, I know you're not going to let these guys basically put these dead bugs in your ear and put doubt in you. That's going to let you take away your opportunity to get your degree. We all here the same. We're here to get this piece of paper. So that coming from an older guy, a mentor of mine, it just resonated with me, man, and it stuck. It really stuck. It stuck really deep with me, and that pushed me. That pushed me to get my degree. That pushed me to be successful in football at that level. That pushed me, even my opportunities. If I wanted to go to the next level, and things happen why people don't or do. But that really just resonated me in giving back. And we also had a mentor in college. We had a gentleman by the name of Blue Littleton, and RJ Hicks. They were two African Americans that were up there, which wasn't a lot at Humboldt, but they were two very older gentlemen that used to always help pipeline in there. Mr. Littleton was pipelining kids from Pittsburgh, California a lot, and RJ was and RW Hicks was pipelining from LA. And I saw what they did and how much of an impact they had in other people's lives as well. So all those things collectively, when I graduated and I started having my own kids and I saw their things, I wanted to give back.
Yeah.
I wanted to figure out a way to give back.
And with knowing football, with knowing sports, and you already knowing that whole aspect of team, one for all, those types of things, it just seems to have been a perfect fit as opposed to going into some other profession, right? Just you being tied to sports.
Yeah. Sports does, I think, a lot for the development of people, and especially in corporate America. It teaches you how to be a team member. It teaches you how to be a leader. It teaches you how to speak. It teaches you how to be competitive. It teaches you how to really, really be driven. And learn how to work under adversity. How to be under. It just teaches you so many dynamics. And football is the ultimate team sport. I know some people don't want to believe it, but it is. That's the one sport that there's no one person that can dominate without the others. You can't. Yeah. A quarterback can't throw the ball unless the offensive line is blocking.
He can't throw it to himself, right?
He can't throw it to himself. He can't outrun. He can't outrun other people unless they're blocking. He can't throw the ball unless somebody's catching it. They can't run the ball unless the running back is taking the ball and running it, and an offensive line is blocking. So, it's so many dynamics in football that cultivate that team effort, which you need in the work environment. You need to. And also it creates innovation. It creates like a big competitive spirit. You learn how to be successful with each other, and you learn how to fail. You learn how to endure failure. So those things, and you learn how to overcome failure. So those things are all big things that I learned through the process of sports. And I learned them as I got into college, and I learned how to translate that into the corporate American world.
We hold that in common for sure, because so my sport was baseball. I played a lot of baseball, not as much as Kev did, but I've coached the youth up here as well, and I'm always telling the youngsters that when you're on these groups, when you're on these squads, you're relying on them, they're relying on you. You have to work for each other and with each other, and those are the leadership, those are the qualities that you're going to take on this field, on this court, on this on this playground wherever, and you're going to also take that into whatever profession that you do, all the relationships that you have going forward as well. So sports is more important, I think, than folks realize. If you look beyond just the game itself, but look at how much mental ability. I love coaches, right? So I'm a big Joe Torre kind of guy, baseball coach. I'm a big thinking strategy type of person, and I see that coming out of you in terms of this conversation that we're having, that you're looking at it beyond just the physical. Like, look, I got Hard Knocks on. I'm watching Hard Knocks still every morning when I fire this TV up. So I'm watching that aspect, but you're looking at it, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but beyond just the hitting, the blocking, the tackling, and the running routes, but again, the thinking person's game, right? The ability to quickly see a situation, adapt to it, and make some types of activity.
That is a very, very good point, and you're right. I would like to allude to that, because I believe, especially at least in my sport in football, remember, you have to be able to counter-react to what they're doing, and you have to be able to counter-react on the fly. So I hate when people put the stereotype that people are dumb. Football players are dumb. They're actually, you're not, because you're actually one of the ultimate strategists, because you have to be able to counter-react to what the next person to do, based off even what their reaction, what they see. And I'll take a person through a scenario. When the ball is when they break the huddle and they go to the thing, the quarterback looks and sees what's going on. He'll either keep the play on or he'll call an audible. If he calls an audible, that means the play's changed and the line changes. That means the defense has to change their adjustments and what their responsibilities are on the fly to what that happens. Now, based on the snap of the ball, things are completely different that's going on. You have to adjust to whatever that play is and read what's going on to react to it to be successful. And now you have either successful sides on the offensive ball because their strategy was better on that particular play, or the defensive strategy was better on that particular play to be able to break it up and stop it from going on. But the thing is, like you said in the beginning, it's more of a mental challenge than it is a physical challenge all day, every day.
Look, if we all had to read those large playbooks every week before a game or before we do a meeting in our day jobs, we'd be stressed too. You can't say that there's not a lot of high IQ folks that play in these professional sports and collegiate sports, whatever the case may be.
Absolutely.
So talk to us a little bit about MBA. And talk to us about kind of the goal, the purpose, the mission behind what that activity is, and that the organization that you started.
Yeah, I think in MBA, the goal behind that is definitely to help kids get to post-secondary education, period. And sports is a platform. I know there's kids that don't play sports, they go to college, but definitely I think there's a break between people of color and going to college, because a lot of us are the first generations going to college. We don't, and there is a process, and a lot of people don't understand the process. You have to not only get recruited by the coaches and all that stuff, but you also have to be admitted into school. You have to take a certain amount of classes in high school to be able to be eligible for school. Not only when you get there, you got to be able to test. You got to understand what the redshirt process is. You got to understand what's going to be demanded of you when you go to college, because college sports is completely different than high school. There's no in college, you're going to dedicate at least 6 hours of your day to that one sport, and that's by working out, getting up, working out. You got meetings, you got practice, and you have post meetings after that, and you got film to watch, and then you go home, and now you got to do your regular homework. Well, in high school, you go for 2 hours, and that's it. If that, you go for an hour, and that's it. You go home. You don't really think about it anymore. But when you get to the collegiate level, it's more of a job. It's more of a job that you have to endure at that level. Is. And I think people don't understand that until they get there. That's why there's so much shell shock. For some kids, or that's why we have such a drawback from kids not, when they want to come back home so fast, because it's such a demand driven on you to participate in sports, now to go to school, maintain your grades and all this thing, and then not having a platform or a person to go back and reach back to and talk to, because we don't have those mentors. We're the first generations. You can't call your mom and say, "Hey, Mom, I'm having problems with this. Can you help me?" Well, she can't teach you anything she doesn't know. You can't call your brother because he can't teach you anything he doesn't know. So we have very few mentors in those situations to be able to go give back to these kids and give them advice on how to handle those kind of situations, because it gets stressful. You're away from home. You're not getting a home cooked meal. You're tired. You're wrestling. You're restless. You're playing football, or you're playing your sport of your choice. You got all these different dynamics. You're around people, strangers you don't even know, and we don't have that massage. We don't have that easy massage to get that advice. So I think my business or MBA Sports is kind of try to at least bridge that gap to get you in and give you at least a fair warning, which I say the power of no, to let you know what you're going to get yourself involved to once you step on that college campus.
Wow, the power of no. And so you're really talking about the soft skills piece, right? Because everyone that goes to college, everyone moves off, whatever, they go and get that twin XL bed in their dorm room, whatever, everyone has an RA, they have those services.
Yeah.
But when you're an athlete in college, right, I like how you put it, that's really your job. Yeah, you're there for an education as well, but if you got a scholarship and you got recruited by that school, really your priority, be it all whatever somebody wants to say, your priority is really to go out there on that court, field, diamond, whatever, and show out and show those skills that you have.
Absolutely.
And those skills of helping that athlete manage through the day, manage through finding someone to help them and tutor them with their homework because they're missing so many classes because they're out at conditioning, they're out at practice, helping them with finding proper nutrition, right? Because you can't just keep eating top ramen and pizza and Mountain Dew all day if you're an athlete. You got to find someone to feed you right. So it's a whole different ecosystem of folks I think they're going to be around.
It's just a different dynamic. Like, I mean, if you're an athlete in like the higher level, you go Division I, Division II, and so if you're on scholarship, they'll figure out they're going to try to allot your time for your time management the best as possible. That's great, and that's what they're supposed to do because they want you to maximize your skills as an athlete. But also in that same situation, who's going to talk to that young man that's lonely? Because let's be honest with you. You go somewhere, you go 1,500 miles away, and you don't know anybody. You may know people on the team, but you're in that dorm room by yourself at the end of the day. Yeah. Where you're used to being at your house when you have your mom and your brothers and your sisters to talk to. You have your friends you can communicate with. You have all these things. When you're having a bad day, who are you supposed to talk to when you don't really know nobody except for your teammates? You'll get to know them eventually, but you don't have that support net mechanism like you do when you're closer to home. So just being separated from your support mechanism, that's a difficult thing for anybody to do. Now, why do you think when people go to jail it's so difficult? Because they don't have no one to talk to. The support mechanism is taken away. It's the same thing. It's that mechanism is taken away from you when you go to college. And if you have no one to lean on, or you have very little people to lean on, it's hard to make that adjustment. And especially for when you're a first generation person going to college, it's very difficult to make that adjustment going there because we don't have a support mechanism. Now, other people may have it. You will learn to lean on different professors, different advisors, and different things, and you can start to develop that. But development takes time. Development doesn't happen overnight. You don't instantly have a support mechanism. You don't instantly have friends. You don't instantly have a person you can go to and talk to. You don't have instantly anyone just to talk to unless you make that friend right away. So I believe you have to be able to massage those kind of things into to a young man or young lady as they're first going to school. And let's be honest, everybody's not built the same way.
That's true. That's true, right? Depending on your situation, depending on your circumstances, your upbringing, right? You may have both parents in your home, and you come from a different dynamic as opposed to someone who didn't, or from a financial situation, whatever the case may be. So let me narrow this in a little bit more, kind of focus to what MBA does, right? We talk about kind of the general collective, but you're really focused on primarily
providing opportunity. I'm focused on giving them the opportunity.
But you're focused on giving that opportunity, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're focused on everyone, but you really got a specific reach out to the minority community, to the athletes of color, the ones who systematically probably have come up through an environment to where they have been overlooked or not had the proper resources. Am I correct in saying that? I don't want to put anything in their mouth.
No, you're absolutely. I really like to focus on those that are underutilized. My main sport, let me be perfectly honest, is football. I do help other sports, but football is my main passion. So I really work with those young men a lot. So I try to work on those that are underrepresented, not only by their gender or not only by their color, their skin, or their socioeconomic situation, but also that just don't get the opportunity. So
that's what I wanted to hear. Okay.
The kid that doesn't get the opportunity, he may have 9 kids on this team that are stars, but that one kid is working just as hard, doing everything just as right as they're doing, but no one's looking at him. I want to pull that guy, that diamond out of that rough, and show him and give him an opportunity to also be able to go to schools just as well.
Makes sense.
And showcase his talent.
So give us an example, kind of what services that you provide, you offer. Like I know of an organization. I think when we talked a couple of months ago when we were planning this, I mentioned to you Max Preps, right? Yep. So I mean, Max Preps is, I know you know them as well. But what services do you provide that separate you from any of the other service providers that are out there helping young athletes?
I believe my service is just I have a lot of good relationships with a lot of coaches out there, and I have a good eye for talent and be able to see talent and what's utilized, especially at the lower levels. Let's be, I'll be perfectly honest with you. Guys that are Division I capability or that are going to the big Power 5 schools, they don't need my help. They don't need any input from me. They've already been physically blessed to be able to develop to play at that level. But guys that are a little bit less that haven't developed and need those few years to develop, but they have a lot of talent. Guys that are small or considered small for their position. Utilize talent. There's a ton of schools out there for them. Those schools may not be in California, but there's a ton of schools out there that are willing to offer money for them to come play and play for their team. I look for those guys, those diamonds in the rough, to say, hey, guy, you can actually go play in college. You can go play at Tabor. You can go play at Southwest Minnesota State. You can go play over there at McPherson. There's schools for you to be able to opportunity to go play, get your education, continue your 4 years of playing football. And at that point, who knows what happened, because we all develop differently. Some people develop at 17, some people develop to the 20. It depends on how you go into your body. But if you have the skill set, there's an opportunity, there's a place for you to play football and get your degree.
I really like that, because a lot of times athletes and just individuals as well don't think of all the opportunities, all the possible opportunities that are out there, right? Mm-hmm. Going to a different location, going and play for maybe a smaller school, not always looking for Division I. You might not be ready for D1 school, right? Let's look at something else. Let's look at something. If you live in California, let's look at Texas. Let's look at Virginia. Let's look somewhere else. Get your education. Get the opportunity to play, not just sit on the bench, but you actually may get a chance to get out there and make a highlight reel.
Exactly.
Those kinds of things, and then see where that takes you. But so I really like the fact that you go in with that open concept and that open mindset of saying, let's look at all these other variables and other ways that we can get you some playing time.
I think guys got to realize there's only so many Division I athletes, that go Power 5, or go to these big schools, and you got to think. You have to ask yourself, and I think the biggest culprit are parents and uncles and cousins and everybody outside. You need to really ask yourself, is that young man or young lady the best in their area? And if they're the best in their area, are they the best in their city? And if they're the best in their city, are they the best in their region? That's the guy that's going to Power 5. And the one thing that discourages me a lot is when people start to compare their kids to other kids. So, my son got more yards than him. He's a better runner than him. Well, let's look at let's start to take a look, break down the physical attributes. Your son is 5'10", 170 pounds. You know what? I can go outside in any park and throw a rock and hit a kid that's 5'10" and 170 pounds. Mm-hmm. Now, the other kid that you're comparing yourself to, that kid is 6'1", 215 pounds. So, understand. You got to understand from a coach's mindset. They're in the business of winning games and getting the biggest, the fastest, the best athletes. They don't. And the best line I've ever heard: I don't recruit heart, I recruit talent. Everyone always says, you got to measure how big the heart is. Yeah. My job isn't to recruit heart. My job is to recruit talent.
Everybody's got heart.
Yeah, you can. The smallest man is 115 pounds, probably have the biggest heart in the world, but you know what? He can't play linebacker for an NFL team because he's too small.
That's true. That's
the bottom line. So I wish parents would stop. They need to really open and broaden their horizons. And I'm not saying take away a kid's dream. If a kid wants to shoot for the big Division I's, absolutely keep working hard and getting that.
Yeah.
But if that opportunity doesn't come, take the next best thing that is for you and go get that education. I think too many of us defer to junior college and think that's going to be the answer. I'm gonna let a big secret out right now. Junior college doesn't make you Division I. It doesn't. You're either a D1 athlete going into junior college, or you're a fallback from going to junior college because you messed up to get your grades right. If you're a guy that's just going to junior college to try to develop into Division I, it happens, but it very happens rarely. And number two, they're always going to bring somebody in to take your position, or you're going to be splitting time with somebody. Period. That's just the beast of it. Most people are Division I athletes before they go to junior college. They get their stuff right, and then they move on.
Okay.
It's not the other way around. Junior college is not going to develop you to be a Division I athlete. It doesn't work that way.
That's telling, and that's probably, I won't say crushing to some, not even the athletes, but I'll say to the parents. Because and I go back to kind of what you were saying, and I think a lot of times parents try to live their failed athletic dreams out by their kids. And I saw this a lot when I was coaching, but and that's such a disservice to the child and to the athlete themselves because they'll never live up to that false expectation.
Unless they make it to the NFL, and that's very so rare that it's going to do, or they make it to Major League Baseball or something like that. I believe they just. I mean, you got to really figure out what's important to you. And I always tell kids, if you go to college and get your degree, you're going to become a pro.
Yeah.
It may not be a pro athlete, but you're going to be professional something.
Professional something.
Because you have that piece of paper to back you up, and it's always going to open up a door for you. But if you're putting all your eggs in one basket, says they're going to go to school and become an athlete or be a professional athlete, man, there's only 3%. You got to think, there's over 1 million high school kids that play on Friday nights.
Mm-hmm.
There's only 300 and some thousand college students that play on Saturdays. So that means 700,000 are left behind that aren't playing on Saturday. And then from that 300,000 that's playing on Saturday, there's only roughly about 600 that's playing on Sunday in the NFL. The numbers drop drastically. So if you want to just look at statistics alone, it drops so drastically that there's only 3% guys that are playing in college are going to go into the NFL. And are you top that 3%? Maybe, maybe not. But odds are you're probably not going to be that 3%. So why not be the next best thing is to get your piece of paper, your degree, and be a pro with something. That degree right now is established. You're going to make $40,000 a year regardless of what's happening. Period. No matter what happens, no matter, I don't care if the economy's bad, whatever job you get, you're going to be making about $40,000 a year, period. That changes your family's wealth, that changes your family directory, and that gives you intellectual wealth.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Where if you don't do it, you have none of that. And now we're out here hustling. We're out here doing these other things to try to make ends meet, and we have to do it the hard way. I'm saying, go play your sport, go get your opportunities together, get your degree, and from that point on, man, let life take its place at that point, because now you've opened so many doors for yourself.
Yeah, that resonates really good because it's refreshing to hear you mention that sports is great, but sports isn't everything, right? Yeah. If you're not that 2-3%, man, I'm not probably going to be watching you on Sunday afternoon, right? I'm just probably not. But that's okay, right? Okay. Go there, get that paper, get that degree signed. Make sure it's signed. That's one thing my mother told me. When I got mine, it's good you got your degree, baby, but make sure the man signed it. I said, yes, ma'am. Yeah. But then you have something to fall back on, right? You have some concrete skills, regardless of what they may be. So that's really telling, and I really appreciate that you're emphasizing that with the athletes that you work with. Mm-hmm. So let me ask, how is this particular time, 2020, affecting you? Everything's in lockdown. We don't have any sports, or we have very little engagement with sports. How's it affecting you right now?
It's really, and let's narrow even down. Let's talk specifically the state of California. So, in California, it's bad, and I'm gonna speak especially for the class of 2021. It's just gonna be a messed up time with this COVID thing, and not having an opportunity to play and showcase your talent. I think it's bad not only for 2021, but it's also bad for 2022 because there's no junior film. So coaches can't recruit you off of your junior film. They got to recruit you off your sophomore film, which is really difficult, which we know you can develop a lot between your sophomore and senior year, period. So those two classes are screwed with this COVID thing, and hopefully it gets better next year, but as of right now, they're screwed. With that being said, now the opportunities are limited because now NCAA has given schools, seniors, their year back. They have a chance to have another year of eligibility. So you got to think, of a school, say let's talk Sac State, for instance, and I don't know the numbers, this is all speaking hypothetically, but let's say Sac State going into this year before COVID hit, they had 20 scholarships to offer. They were going to graduate 10 seniors and they had 10 available. Well, now those 10 seniors are going to stay. So that you don't have 20 scholarships no more, you only have 10.
Okay.
You only have 10 because they're not leaving, and you have to pay for the school another year. The school's not going to give you more budget. NCAA is not going to give you more scholarships. So now that 10 that you had, that 20 you thought you had, is now down to 10. Now you can only recruit 10 guys around. So now, imagine how selective they can be now, because that trickles all the way down from the bigger schools to the small schools. So those big schools that used to have 20, now they only got 10. So those other 10 that we're going to take, they got to fall down to the next level. They fall in the Sac State slap. Sac State, the guys that weren't going to Sac State now fall into some Division II schools lap. Fall into it's just going to trickle down, and there's only so many spots. It's it used to be a big amount of spots. Now it's very condensed. It's little. Schools have now, half of what they had before because people are opting back in for the extra year. So now you got to be really forceful in your choices. You got to really make sure if you want that opportunity, you got to go out there and take it. You can't hesitate. We don't have the luxury in California to sit around and wait and be picky like we did years before. Where guys had 10 or 12 offers and they want to wait.
Yeah.
And, I want to go on my recruiting trips. I want to wait. I'm going to see what happens. Now what's going to happen, I think, when early signing day for the guys that want to go to the big-time schools, if they don't sign, I think schools are going to move on, period. There's not going to be no ifs, ands, or buts. They're going to move on. And when those guys move on and those scholarships get pulled or those offers get pulled, now everybody's going to scramble where they're going to go now and figure out what home from there. And then imagine that. Now that's the D1 guys. Imagine guys that are mostly D2 and NAIA level, and NAIA is a collective of D2 if people don't know that, in Division 3 level. Division 3 is non-scholarship, by the way. They only go on academics when you get there. So they only offer you a roster spot. They don't offer you athletic money. Division 2 and NAIA offer you athletic money. So now the money from there, they also get another year too. So their money is shrunk as well. So when you're trying to find these smaller schools from a person like me who really works with them a lot, those numbers aren't there anymore. Where I can go to a school and send them 5 people, they're like, Montell, we're only taking 1. So now I can't send 5 guys there no more. I have to kind of branch out more, and hopefully there's other places. And the other thing that people are looking at, more schools are now going to be looking locally because they don't have the budget to go out because of COVID. They don't have the luxury to be able to travel because of COVID. You can't meet face to face and go into a home visit the kid because of COVID. So now, if I don't get to see you face to face and don't be able to put the eyeball test on you and make sure you meet all the attributes and you look like the athlete I think you are, then most likely I'm not going to offer you. I'll go offer Billy that's around the corner that I seen at the local high school, and I can go to his house and see him at the local restaurant, and I can get an eyeball test, and maybe he might be a little less talented, but at least I know exactly what I'm getting with Billy.
You know exactly what you're getting,
Exactly, instead of flying off. You guys got to remember, people I got to remember, these coaches, these are his coaches' jobs. They're coaching for their life. This is their life. This is how they feed their family.
Yeah.
I can't take a chance on a kid that I've never seen before, don't know anything about, when I can take a chance on a kid that is right around the corner.
Yeah, because a Zoom call trying to pick someone's athletic capabilities does not work at all.
It doesn't work, man. And you can look at the film, and these kids, they're showing 7-on-7 film, and they're showing them the workout, and that's all good. You need to continue to do that because you got to show that you're being active. But that's not a true indicative of who you are unless they get a chance to see you face to face. I'm gonna tell you right now, and I'm sure you feel the same way. If I'm about to invest $50,000 or $200,000 scholarship in you, or in a kid, I want to see him and make sure, because if I go to my head coach and tell him, you know what, this kid becomes a bust, I just wasted $200,000 of the school's money of this kid on this kid that's never going to probably play for us or not going to contribute to our football program for 3 to 4 years. That's a clear sign of a guy that might get fired from his job, because that $200,000 could have went to somebody else. They could have invested in someone else. So I think people got to be really, really diligent about, if you have an offer and someone is attracted to you as a student athlete, you need to very investigate it and be very diligent about possibly taking that offer, and don't wait for the big bomb to drop out of the sky to give you some Division I's offer. You might really want to consider those D2 offers and really make an effort to see if that's the right place for your student athlete.
So that grass may not be greener on the other side if you try to hold out and hold your breath and wait for something else to show up.
Or you might not get no grass at all.
you might not get. But that's so real, right? That really is the reality of it, right? We think we are what we are, and we swear we can still run a 40 in however fast, but when it comes to the sabermetrics, when it comes to numbers don't lie, when it comes to the film, right? What can you do for me today? Now, I'm not worried about tomorrow. What can you do for me today?
And also, you got to look at a kid's upswing. If there's a kid, your parents is 5'10" and you're 6 foot, you're not going to grow to be 6'4", 6'5" to be a quarterback. That is your trajectory. You're going to be about a 6 foot kid, and you may grow an inch or two, but that's about it. Where some kids, you can see their family and see them like, okay, well, he's like 6'1", his dad's 6'6", mom looks 6'2". The probability he might grow a little bit, we might want to take a chance on that kid and go him. So people just, you can't look at just the now in high school sports for athletes. Coaches are also looking at, what can I grow him into? I want to make sure he has ability now. Definitely, he's got to have the ability, but I also want to see what can he grow to, and how can we make him a bigger, better, faster athlete? What is his upswing? Basically, what is his upswing? His or her upswing. So
Right.
I think there's so many dynamics that goes into the recruiting part that I think parents only see the comparison part, comparing their kid to another person and why they got
Mm.
offered and why my kid didn't, instead of saying, you know what, I really got to be realistic with my child and be like, you know what, let's go get that NAI money from Dordt
Mm.
College and get my kid a degree in 4 years. And I always tell kids, you know what, you don't never want to be the person that plays on the team. You want to be the person that's cutting the check, working in the front office if that's what you
That's
want to
true.
do.
That's true.
Let's be
That's
honest with you.
true.
If an owner can afford to pay a player $10 million, that means he's making 20 million.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
if you really want to be involved in the sports and that's your passion, start looking at it from the business end as well instead of playing. And you can only do that unless you go to school.
One last question, and then I'll let you kind of freestyle a little bit. But you brought up something, and I wonder. I know you have all your engagement and your interaction with the athlete themselves, but do you have the one-on-one session with the parent themselves, right? About these are some true expectations, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, Tim is good at basketball, but man, I know he wants to go to, I don't know, Syracuse. He wants to go to St. Mary's, where. But man, you know what? Let's go ahead and let him go to Solano Community College right now. All right. I mean, do you have those types of conversations
Yes. Yes.
with the parents?
You talking about, do I have those awkward, uncomfortable conversations?
I've said that many times. I'm glad you used that phrase. I'm gonna
yeah.
drink to that.
I'm brutally honest, and I'm brutally honest with the kid first. I try to tell him his expectations first, and I tell him all the time. My word isn't he, but I got a damn good percentage of kids I know this Division I who's not, and I tell them, I try to be very brutally honest. And then with parents, I have those conversations with them, but I try to educate the parents even beforehand. I have a bi-weekly series that I have called Straight from the Horse's Mouth, where I bring coaches from all over the country to speak to student athletes, and it's open dialogue. You can talk to them, you can ask them any questions you want. You can talk to them about recruiting. You can talk to them about the school. Talk about anything you want. Forget me as the middleman. Don't hear it from me.
Yeah.
Hear it from a guy that's in the profession that's going to tell you exactly what's going on and what they want. And they break it down from the size they want of their linemen, the size they want of the quarterback, how fast they want their receivers, and all. They break down everything you want as imaginable to ask, so you can hear it directly from a coach. So it can also resonate when I'm telling you. It reinforces what I'm telling you. You may or may not be that person, and this is the reasons why, and that coach just told you. So that's a bi-weekly call I have. Also on my website, I have an ability where you can upload your film, and I'll break you down your film, and I'll tell you what I see, the good, the bad, and the ugly in your film. So I'll tell you straight up on your film, like, hey, you don't do this well. You need to work on this. You need to work on that. Or you do this very well. This is where I think you fit as far as schools are concerned. I think you're this type of player. So I have all that on my website. That people can go access to and go take a look at. It's MBAsports.net. You can go on there. There's a place, you can go through there. There's some certain links that you can click on there, and you can definitely upload your film. So I think those two things I kind of have. It's funny, and I'll give you an example. I had a conversation once with a parent, a single mother, and I was telling her about we were talking about a school her child should go to. They were really interested in it, and the funny thing, the kid that got offered from a small school in Kansas. She was very reluctant to send her son to Kansas. She was like, there's no black people there. There's no this, there's this. I'm like, you know what? And I just, she said they're gonna call him the N-word and all this. I was very brutally honest. I said, I don't think that's the first time someone ever, your son has ever heard the N-word, and so it's not gonna be the last. So why would you deprive him of education just because of that? Don't let that be your restriction in taking away this opportunity for this young man. And he ended up winning there. He actually was very successful. He got his degree and everything. He's a teacher now. But I mean, those are the type of, those conversations I do have. But it's far and few in between. Like I said, I want to educate him before I have those conversations.
I get it. I love it. Tell us what's next, man. What do you got going on? Again, it's hectic right now because again you can't get out there and have that dialogue, but. I feel the energy resonating from you, so I know something's happening. I know you got something cooking in the kitchen right now.
Man,
Tell us what's next.
I got so many things cooking, but my main thing is I really want to, and use your platform also. I want to talk about Division II football in the state of California. I think it's a travesty that we don't have it anymore, except for the School of Azusa Pacific. It's funny to me how we're the fourth largest economy in the world, not the United States. We're the fourth largest economy in the world. and we can't afford to have our students play Division II scholarship football in the state of California. They cut all the programs, which is mind-boggling to me. I'm not quite sure why they've done it. I know before they tried to hide behind Title IX, and what people that don't know what Title IX is, as it means for every men's scholarship, you have to have a women's scholarship, for sports. But typically it's equal. If you have baseball, you have softball. If you have men's basketball, you have women's basketball. You have men's and women's track. So scholarships are equal across the board. But it needs to be tweaked or tweeted somehow, because there is no sport that employs 100 people in like football does. Football has a roster of 100 people in the collegiate level. There's no women's sport that has 100 scholarships. 100 people that participate. And also within that, also in Division II, there's only 36 scholarships that are there. So you can give out 36 full scholarships for Division II. There is no sport in women's that house, I don't believe, even 36 participants fully to be able to equal that. Humboldt State kind of got away with it for a long time, because Humboldt State they didn't have men's baseball, so the football team scholarships would transfer to the softball team. So that's kind of how they even killed it. But I do believe Title IX just needs to be readjusted. I'm all in agreement. I believe that's correct. If you offer a man athlete, you should offer a women athlete. But instead of going 1-for-1, I believe it should be percentages. If you say, all the men athletes you have in your school, if 60% are on scholarship, then 60% of the women should be on scholarship. Just that way, that just gives football a little bit more tweak. And I know big schools are able to do it. Like UCLA, they can incorporate and bring gymnastics to kind of offset for everyone to get a scholarship and so on. But smaller schools like Humboldt, Cal State East Bay, Sonoma, Chico, they don't have the budget to do that. So I believe there needs to be some type of tweak within there. But back to giving it back, though, again, for the state of California to be the fourth largest economy. Also, in the LA Times back in June, there was an article that there was a $1.5 billion surplus in the state education system, and you still don't have the budget to be able to have these schools have football. And it's mind-boggling, because, again, let me kind of give my direction for everybody. So I work in corporate America. The biggest thing in corporate America, and across the board, because I work for 3 Fortune 500 companies, there is a lack of qualified men of color to apply for new college entries or entry-level jobs. There's just a lack of them. There's not very many of them there. I believe the state of California, by cutting football from these programs, has cut off the legs of men of color to have the opportunity to go to school. And the best way to cut off progress is cut off opportunity. If you want to stop progress, cut off opportunity. So I think the state of California, with these schools talking about it within their budget and dropping football, they have cut off the opportunity for men of color to go to school. Period. Now, people will say, hey, you don't have to, football's not a privilege for you to go to school, but football is something that attracts men of color to go to school. In each one of those schools, since they dropped football, their men of color enrollment, the diversity enrollment for men have dropped. Every last one of them. They all have dropped. Also, within that same trajectory, which happened in 1995, I believe they started cutting the football programs. The incarceration rate in the state of California went up. All for those years. So it's a common denominator. Men from 17 to 24 took more penitentiary chances and went to jail, and men of 17 to 24 stopped going to college because they cut off their football programs. So I blame the state of California for that. I mean, that was something that would uniquely identified a special demographic to schools to bring men of color onto their campuses to create innovation, education, and so on, and you cut it off. You allow these schools to be able to cut it off and run behind whatever excuse they wanted to run behind, whether it was budgetary, Title IX, whatever it is. You allowed them to run behind and cut their program because you felt it was easier to do that dynamic instead of to deal with the real crisis at hand. And that means bringing these people back, bringing these young men back to campuses, letting them compete competitive, and letting them get their degree. You got to think about it. With those 6 schools, and if you take a couple of the private schools, so let's say if you take Humboldt State, Chico, Sonoma, San Francisco State, Cal State East Bay, and Long Beach State, and let's also think about Menlo College, UC Santa Barbara, St. Mary's, and Santa Clara. All had football. All of them had football. That's 10 schools. Of those 10 schools, graduated 10 men of color every year for the last 25 years, would have a 2,500 workforce of men of color in the state of California, educated. That means they can go to work. They have jobs in these companies. They would be able to go back to the community. They would have a reach to other people. They would change their family dynamic. They would have intellectual wealth at that point. they could go do tremendous other things. If they all that 2,500 reached out to just 2 more people, that's 7,500 people in a trajectory to get college. That's a whole town. That's a whole company that could change the whole dynamic of a whole community, of a whole economic system. You're no longer on the corner hustling. You're actually paying taxes. You're making $40,000 a year. You're opening your own business. You're becoming entrepreneurs. You're climbing up the corporate ladder. You got a development skill set. You're more wealth to your family. Your kids probably now will become going to college because you set that tone at that point. You've opened up a whole dynamic that was there that they cut off, and that's just by football.
Yeah. So let me ask a question that I'm kind of known for, just throwing a curveball, right? So where do you think you can influence into changing this entire dynamic, right? Is it legislative, or is it more on the educational side, right? Is it actually being part of a school district, a school administration piece, or is it actually going to the state capitol, talking to the lobbyists and talking to those folks, or is it a combination of both?
I think it might be a combination of both. I think when we have to talk to the individual schools and the athletic directors at those schools, and ask them, and also talk to admissions at those schools as well as the presidents, and ask them the reason why and why they're not making an effort to bring it back. Because I truly believe at the state schools, you could actually have football with non-scholarship, and those schools would thrive with student athletes wanting to come there in the state of California. Because let's be honest, kids want to stay closer to home. They want to play. FAFSA will cover a mass majority, especially of the people that are lower income, and state schools are affordable. So with that all being said, they would play under the non-scholarship rule because schools like USD, University of San Diego, has been able to do it for years and be successful. So why couldn't we implement that same program at these Division two school at the state level, at state school levels, the camps like E-Base and so on, the non-scholarship, have a plan for them to do it for the next 5 years to grow, to be able to get those money games, to put influence money into the program, to be able to have all those things so it can be self-sufficient at that point. And now we can continue to have our kids with the support system being here in California, and them to be able to play and represent their school in front of us. It would be, you would have a high success rate.
You're touching all the right buttons, and I'm looking over here, and I got another screen going, and right now, and the reason being is I've got a number of college athletes, people who play college sports, that are watching right now, and they're saying, Montell is this is a great conversation because this is resonating with them, and wishing that something like this had been talked about, more accessible, whatever the case may be, right, when they were playing. And that's really why I asked you the question of where can you, again, influence into the system more? Is it more from the administrative piece, or is it more from the legislative piece? I mean, if we need to get you on the line with Gavin Newsom himself, or whatever, or the chancellor at UC Davis, what needs to happen to have this? Because you're just talking football, right? You've kind of just narrowed the numbers down and just talk about that particular sport. But if we had this conversation about sports in general, so track and field, baseball, volleyball, whatever the case may be, and I don't know enough, but I don't know if it's cost so much from a financial perspective to even implement something like this, right? Because almost everything is dollars and cents, right? And that's the reason why things.
I can address that, and I'm going to address it with football particularly. Football is probably the number one money making sport out of all those 6 schools, state schools that were there. Football makes the most money out of all of them. It makes the most money than basketball, so on and so on, all of them, because it draws so much more of a crowd. One, the way football works is that they can draw money games. Humboldt was on before they cut their program. They were on the right since they were scheduling Idaho states where they would get 300,000. They were scheduling schools like UC Davis, so they were getting money. So that's what I'm saying. Go non-scholarship in the beginning and figure out your plan to be able to make it self-sufficient. So the UC Davis of the world, UC Davis has done very successful, but let's say the Humboldt states of the world can make a money game playing against San Jose State, where they would get $600,000 to play against them. That would fund their whole program for the whole year. So if you have a coach and a fundraiser or athletic department that can show them the way, all those schools can be self-sufficient within 4 years. But in the meantime, you can open the door for non-scholarship players to come participate in there and get the program off the ground. I can guarantee you there is 100 kids in Oakland that would love to play for Cal State East Bay. I guarantee it. I guarantee there's kids from Sacramento and in Northern California that would love to play for Chico and Humboldt State. I guarantee they can find 100 participants to participate and play and get their program off the ground and start. Now, the cost would be travel, obviously, is a big cost, and the cost of the coaches. But again, if they're bringing in enough of a revenue to help to cover that nut or cover most of that nut, why not bring the sport back? Because you're attracting a whole different demographic to your campus. It is, you
that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm taking mental notes because I don't think this conversation is done. I'm probably considering that we do a panel, have some type of conversation around subject matter experts in this field. I'm not one of those, but I would love to moderate or help produce something like that. And I think getting other athletes, other collegiate athletes, folks that are in some type of administration, some folks that are in some type of legislation as well, and ask that hard question, the why it is the way it is, and give some examples of some possibilities. I think that's a conversation that needs to happen, and I know that would be a decent discussion, especially for the parents who are in the position right now of trying to figure out where their student athlete should go, and kind of help calm some of the anxiety that the student athlete themselves is probably feeling right now, because they don't know where to go. One, because of all this pandemic and lockdown, and two, because there doesn't look like there's many opportunities when in fact there really could be, right? If we just think about the system in a different way. Does that make sense?
Yep. I agree with you 100%. I mean, and I would love to be a part of the panel or be a part of or somebody can shoot questions at me. I'm ready for rapid fire, whatever they want to throw. I think I'm well versed in what's going on, and if there's something I don't know, I'll be open and honest that I don't know. But I do know there's a way that these programs should be able to get back off and running, and it shouldn't be a situation where it's so cost effective that they can't do it because there's money in the state. There's money in the budget. Like I said, there's a $1.5 billion surplus in the education part of California. So you can't tell me there's no money there. You just don't want to spend it. And me personally, I think it's personal. I take your personal because I think you're excluding that demographic of educated men of color. Period. I don't want to hear it. There's nothing else, because that sport, that's what what gravitates to men of color to participate in that sport. So why are you cutting off that one dynamic? If that's the case, then cut off women's soccer. They won't do that because they know hell will be raised.
Right.
They won't do that.
I mean, that's just real, right? I mean, that's just a real conversation, and you have to ask those hard questions to folks that are in the know and see what they say, right? And hold them accountable to that. So, man, I love it. So I'm going to take this action item to continue this conversation. I'll make sure that you're involved in that, and I know a number of other folks will want to participate as well. I already showed your website. Is there any other place where folks can kind of get in contact with you in terms of some of the activities that you're doing, some of the conversations that you're having? Either I know you do some interviews on television as well down in San Diego, but whenever you're going to be on the San Diego news, I'm sure folks would like to know about that too. Talk to them.
Yeah. I usually during high school football season, which is not happening. I'm a high school analysis for Fox Sports. Also, like I said, my website is the best part to get a hold of me. If you guys have any questions or just want to understand some more things about what MBA Sports does, it's MBAsports.net. All one word. Man, I'm an open book. You hit me in those two platforms, I'm good. And my Twitter's kind of MBA Sports #1. If you hit me on that platform, I'm pretty accessible to get to. I try to follow. I try to get back to everyone. As you guys can see, I'm pretty passionate about these certain topics because I believe there just needs to be some resolution to this and give our kids an opportunity, man. There's too many kids leaving California, and there's not enough of them that has enough opportunity to be able to progress in this world.
Man, if you weren't passionate, it wouldn't be worth doing, right? Nothing in the world is easy, so you got to work hard to succeed.
Yes, sir.
Montell, I appreciate you, man. This was an amazing conversation. Eye-opening for me, just in terms of not knowing all the different dynamics, right, and the types of things that you bring to the conversation. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Again, we're going to continue this conversation. You will definitely be part of it, but to the utmost, I want to say thank you for who you are and what it is that you do, because you're doing some good work, man.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you now.
All right.